Hey, my name is John Cameron Johnson, and I own a company called Etho. We are growth architects for healthcare innovators, and we are challenging the status quo of healthcare, and we want to add 1 billion years of vitality to the world. And I'm excited because this module right here is talking about the algorithm heuristics, just a way of thinking about the algorithms that you advertise on. And so inside of this video, inside of this module, I'm going to share with you some of the things that I have the models, mental models around advertising through the wins and losses, the headaches, beating my head against the wall, observations, and even some theory based off these observations. And I'm excited to share it with you. And this is, once again, something that's inside of our private client growth programs, but I'm going to share it with you right now. So I'm going to go ahead and skip ahead. One of the biggest things, if you've ran into challenges advertising, is a concept called maximizing chaos. And so what this is dealing with the fact that that your variables, the initial conditions of your advertising, are going to greatly dictate the outcomes. And there's many layers to this, but one of the things that I like to tell people is that inside of this process, there's only a few things that matter to these platforms. And here they are. I'm gonna go and start playing this presentation for you. And so the first one, as you saw, user experience. Second is generating revenue, and third is advertiser success. Why in this order? Well, user experience, because the only reason people are advertising on that platform is because there's people there. And so these platforms care about keeping the user experience extremely high, like really well done, so people continue to come back. And if it sucks, they don't come back. And if they don't come back, you have no one to advertise to. So that's why this is important. The second piece is generating revenue. Why? Because they can't generate revenue if they don't have users. And so effectively, when you advertise, you're paying for attention real estate, digital real estate on the 6.5 miles the average person scrolls on their phone per day. Consider how fast they can scroll past your stuff. So if you're putting out marketing that's not effective, that doesn't have an aligned message with the marketplace you're trying to reach, if it does not have good engagement, if it is not engendering good feelings, matter of fact, if it's offensive, lots of times that could drive the user experience down, which, as you know, if these platforms care about user experience the most, then you're going to be hurting yourself. Ultimately, advertiser success is the last thing they care about, because the advertisers are the ones who pay the company. But if it hurts the user experience and starts to drive off users, getting a lot of reports, all that kind of stuff, it's not conducive to growth. And so they're not going to keep you there. So with these algorithms, we have about 0.1%. This is a hypothesis, by the way, 0.1% control. It might be less than that. And so the way I like to think about it is, if the algorithm black box is this, your control is this little tiny little speck on the screen. And so you may be thinking, holy shit, that's not good. It's actually amazing. Reason being is because you have less variables to worry about than trying to control the 99.9+% that the algorithm does. And so your box of control is extremely important. And what I'm going to share with you is the secret isn't some crazy like targeting hack or anything, none of that bullshit. What it is ARC. I like this little acronym to help you remember. And so what it is account structure and history. So the way your account is structured as far as the campaigns, to indicate to these platforms you know what the hell you're doing. What I have fucking found is that people who set up their accounts, their campaigns, they don't verify their account, they don't do the necessary protections, they end up getting hurt by these platforms. And these platforms end up basically saying, hey, we don't like the way you're advertising, and so we're going to penalize you. Second is rules and compliance. So advertising policies are key to be aware of. The compliance, making claims. If you go too outlandish, of course, you're going to run into compliance issues. FTC is the one who governs the compliance for these, Meta or Google or TikTok. And so you have to be very careful here. If you try to break the rules and do things that are non-compliant, you will get shut down. And lastly, the creative and copy variation. One of the things that I have found is that the more creative and copy variation, it allows this system to flex its muscles, the algorithm. Because really what the algorithm is a Darwinistic machine. It is a digital Darwinism at its finest. That's what it is. And so if you think about that, what it's doing is it's adapting and trying new variations, just like nature does. And so it puts out this signal. It puts out hey, does the market like this? And based off the feedback it gets, it's going to determine to keep that ad running or to not. And so one of the things you'll find is that if you don't put enough copy variation or creative variation, you're going to run into problems. And so the reason that is because you're not giving the algorithm what it needs, which is to shuffle. Now you may be wondering, well, I want to target certain types of people to acquire the thing that I have, right? If you're working with me, maybe it's to have a patient that is looking for solving a specific problem, or if you're working with business to business, it's going to be someone that you're trying to find a client that has this particular problem. So you maybe wonder, how the hell does it find your market? That's a great question. So here's my theory based on patterns and evidence. I'm going to break down these things based off of the knowledge that I have. And so it's these three variables: AI crawling, scroll stopping, and biometrics, which is kind of invasive. I'm going to share with you what that is. And then market signals. So AI crawling is the AI itself crawling your images, crawling the messaging, crawling the video, and seeing what's the overall theme of the content. And then it's going to do its best to connect to the different profiles that it has thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of data points on, and it's going to try to serve your message to that person based off the message. Second piece is scroll stopping and biometrics. What do I mean by this? Well, how effective is your ad at getting people to stop the scroll? It can track that in nanoseconds. And biometrics, what the hell do I mean by this? Well, it's going to scan your face. It's going to know what you're looking at. It's going to know what your face looks like, what your jaw, your eyebrows, your cheekbones, your smile. It's going to track all of that. And it's going to do this extremely quickly. Check this out. Next time you're scrolling on your phone, look at the cadence of your feed, right? If you're on Facebook, you're on Instagram, you're on TikTok, you're on whatever, look at the cadence of your feed. It knows more about you than you probably know about you, about your likes, your dislikes, your interests, what you look at, how long you look at, what pisses you off, what keeps you engaged, what makes you laugh. It's going to create a cadence. It creates its own recipe, its own syntax specifically for you. And so the biometrics are a huge piece of that. And matter of fact, it's listening to you probably right now. Next is market signals. Now, what does it do is it sends those signals out to the marketplace based off the information that it gets back, that you get from the ad platforms, the dashboards. It's now going to tell you, it's going to indicate to the algorithm, okay, great, we need to do more of this, or we need to do less of that. Now, if you've done the right things, if you've set up your account properly, you've verified domains, you're sending it to a secure domain, your campaigns aren't set up like a 2-year-old did it, then you're going to have a good job at finding who you're looking for. Now, I want you to consider that your sphere of influence, your people, your market is a 3-dimensional object. You're a 3-dimensional structure. Now, this is a sphere cut in half, okay? We're going to call this what is called a total addressable market. This is the type of people you're trying to attract, or the people that you can serve, okay? So this TAM, T-A-M, total addressable market, is the market you're trying to reach. So whether that's a patient, a client, or a customer, or whatever way you describe them, okay? And so inside of this half circle is a 3-dimensional object, 3-dimensional model that we're going to turn into a 2-dimensional map. That way it's a little bit easier. So we're going to have a topographic viewpoint of it. And the way we're going to do that is I want you to imagine these orbs, or these comets or spheres that are going into it as the marketing messages, these advertising messages that you're putting out. This is the different variations, the different creatives, the different headlines, the different descriptions, all the different pieces that are going out to the marketplace looking for the person that is right for your product, service, or solution. And so inside of this, what we want to do is flip it and turn it into 2 dimensions. Now, what you're seeing here is the white effective circle. This is what you're initially targeting. And then as it ends up expanding, it's going to continue to, as your budget spends over time, the targeted audience. Now, mind you, you're noticing how it's not filling out the entire TAM. That's exactly right. If you're targeting 1 million people, 2 million, 5 million people, unless your budget is tens of thousands of dollars a day, you're probably not going to reach all those people within a reasonable amount of time. If you're spending a couple hundred or even $1,000 a day, it's going to take you a while to reach millions of people. So the way this looks is, if you're looking at this model here, even though it's only targeted with the kind of the blue-purple gradient circles, a nice radius, the white might be what's effective, might be creating conversions, you might be getting leads, you might be getting book calls, you might be getting sales, whatever it is that you're measuring. And as you're noticing, some shrink and some expand. And so what's going to happen is that you're going to decide to cut these, even though it spent the budget and it didn't get any yield. You're going to basically cut these, and you're going to want to spend more money on the ones that are already effective, already successful. Now, scaling is, I'm going to save that for a different time. But effectively, the way you want to think about it is you don't get to choose which pockets are the ones the algorithm chooses. What you get to do is you get to control the creative, the copy, the messaging, and the descriptions, headlines with minimal targeting capabilities. Now, my agency friends might argue with me on this, but what I have found is that the more simplistic your targeting, the better it runs. The less constraints you create on the machine, the less constraints you create on the system, the better it actually works. And so what I'll tell you is that the more you want to constrain this process, the harder time you're going to have producing the result you're looking for.